Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, based on a few of your comments, we're going to jump and start a bit of a mini-series about where to start a game or where to begin a game, how to playtest it, get it into the computer, and then possibly even in person after ordering from the Game Crafter. So let's jump on over to the table next door and see what we have in store. I would just like to preface this by saying that this is a bunch of design vomit for you. None of these are any prescribed or proven, guaranteed, prescripted ways to design. This is just a little bit of how I think about things, which if you've been following along is kind of funny a little bit. So here we go. For starting a game design, usually it helps to pin down at least a certain win condition and style of play. From there, we can also add in an intended number of players, maybe some mechanics and whatnot, but generally, giving players a direction to go in and head towards is always a positive thing. So let's say that for this game that we're about to design, it's about having the most victory points. It's simple, it's easy, it's sometimes not the best thing, but it is something that a lot of people can relate to right away, so we'll jump on in with that. We'll also say that this is a competitive game, but this could change based on play testing. So right now we have, we'll say, 2 to 4 players vying to have the most victory points more than any other player by the end of the game. And another fun thing to add to a game design, to any game design, are constraints. And what this means is that instead of kind of having an entire world set in front of you, metaphor, you have some constraints, some restrictions, some defined space that you must work within. And because something is kind of taken away from you, you also are then inspired to find more creative solutions with it. So for the sake of this exercise in video, I'm going to say that my constraints are that the game has to use only a deck of cards, 54 cards. And as we can see, when we flip them over, there we are. So now I have to suddenly think about how to innovate or utilize the parts that are given to me in an engaging and compelling manner. Already, a deck of cards is kind of divided into 4 different suits, so maybe that's something that we can bear in mind for our game design here. Oh my gosh, where are all the hearts at? And I think that we can kind of, there we go, oops, use that as a launching off point. Let me go ahead and center these a bit more for us here. Ah, very good. Now, another fun part about game design is the kind of inspiration or the drive, I would say, about what is going to determine your direction of the game. And there are a number of different approaches. The two most popular are probably mechanics first and theme first driven design. But there's also kind of been experience design, how you want players to feel or a specific moment that you want them to work towards perhaps throughout the game. And lately I've kind of been hearing more popularity for something referred to as table presence design. Ho ho! So this piece is not one of the 54 cards, but it is the inspiration for this design that we're going to be working on for the next couple weeks or so. This is a gift from Tavis, no less, of the Game Crafter, who calls it a booger rock. And another friend on the Board Game Design Lab Facebook group posted a little thread about, oh, what are some really funny components that you've gotten? And this is one of them for sure for me. From there, as a booger rock, I was thinking, what if the name of the game was Snot Rocket? And now all of a sudden, because we have these competing astronauts, maybe each one is on their own rocket ship, here's another component that we may or may not use later. We'll get to that. I want to be exploring the nasal cavities of space, or maybe the nasal spaces of the nose, something like that. And I usually come up with some pretty quirky themes that generally maybe are too outlandish to be released on their own. But hey, this is just for us, right? And that's a-okay as well. Having a design that's not specifically for being published, but just for enjoyment and also flexing those creative muscles. Grr, I'm flexing here. So we have these 4 different maybe types of planets, we'll say, and these different cards have the different values numerically speaking, so that could also be part of it. Hey, we can even say that the face cards are going to be the astronauts aboard for each player. Maybe each player has all these cards. Each player is assigned a specific suit, and the numbers then will be used for some kind of auction or bidding mechanic. I'm not really a big fan of bidding myself. Ooh, don't tell anybody. So I'm going to switch that around and say, that maybe these are the planets themselves. So a type of planet, and then maybe how many resources they have. That's a pretty conventional use for these cards, but we'll say that they're multi-use as well. Perhaps each number refers to a different action that a player can have access to and activate on their turn, perform. And that could be something really neat too. So kind of borrowing a little bit from games like Race for the Galaxy, I think, and Tiny Epic Galaxies, perhaps. We'll just kind of deal out, oh, here, tell you what. Just take some of these other 54x minus x remaining cards, and these, oops, well, there's something you don't see every day. Okay, all right, okay. And, oh, that's, here we go, okay. Oh, all right, we're just gonna start with all aces, I suppose. And these are the planets that we are currently maybe bidding to harvest for. How's that sound? So we will use bidding or auction in the end anyway. Let's say that we have 4. We'll do number of players plus 1. Okay, that's an astronaut. There we are. Huh, finally. So maybe players are going to be moving across the planets, and they have to do so in a certain way based on the cards that they have available to them. So if the king is here, then maybe they can, move 5 spaces. What that means exactly is maybe it's per 2 for a planet that's of a different color, and 1 for a planet of the same color. Maybe you can move to a planet of the same one for free. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe we're kind of coasting back and forth between these sort of Space Invader style. Maybe there's another row of planet cards, and they will kind of shift as we go down, so whichever one kind of lands on your space is the one that you collect. So there's kind of be some, not action economy yet, but we could probably get there too. But planning for not exactly area control either, but just getting a place in space in this nasal cavity. Oh man, and that can be fun too, is tying the theme in with the mechanics. Maybe there's something about like a hairy situation. All right, I'm done. But lo and behold, let's see what we got for another row of these cards. We're just trying to collect these maybe for treasure or tokens. Maybe these cards, these resources that we're collecting from this asteroid field. I see how I've changed the theme already, just being flexible and going around and trying out different things, will be used to convert into victory points based on whatever appears or other cards that are maybe not yet included within these main constraints. But the fun thing is that from here, we have the semblance of a game. And even though it's kind of right now limited to these playing cards, we can begin to evolve the vision of the game and the theme with the appearance of the cards, the visuals, there we go, and the different card layouts as such. So that is probably what we'll do for the next video, and I'm afraid that is where we're going to stop this one for today. But now we have something, and next week we should be able to go ahead and explore this out a little bit more, flesh it out for the mechanics that we've talked about already. We have these astronauts who are sitting maybe at the bottom and waiting for the asteroids to come towards them. But whenever, you do acquire a resource, you can use that for a certain thing. Whether or not the rankings resolve or are tied to the values of these resources is probably something to definitely consider, especially with a game that's only with playing cards. But I've seen other prototypes and such utilize these and write all over the cards, again, just using them for like their physicality as opposed to any actual gameplay value. And that's a-okay too. But we've already, again, tied in the numbers and faces into the game somewhat, and I think that's a great starting point again. And before we go, I just want to say in a previous video, we also mentioned a website, Boardgamizer, which will give you a few different constraints, sample theme, sample mechanics, and in fact, its own win condition too. So if you don't want to come up with all this stuff on your own, you can always visit that website to go ahead and randomize and pull up totally new something or other. As well as too, you could pick some inspiration from an already existing game. Let's say that there was something, I mean, like we said before, it's a little bit Space Invaders-like, but we did something a little bit different. We actually want to be hit by these things, as opposed to other tower defense games like Plants vs. Zombies or the like. So there is no shortage, I hope, of inspiration for starting a game design, and then it's kind of the playtesting and the visuals which will inform where the game wants to go and where the fun is. So again, that's a bit of my own personal process, and as you can probably imagine, it kind of goes all over the place. But that is a-okay, and there's no right way to design, and you're always, I think, gonna fall back and forth more than once as we move along. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell icon so that you can stay notified about when the next video goes up. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint. And together, let's build something great.